What's up, YouTube? It is it's me, it's your boy D, and I am back here with another one. And this time, I'm still going through each and every group, whatever, of each character of Twisted Toons, but this time, doing something a little different. These are all the characters that ain't affiliated with none of the teams. I'm talking about all the randoms, alright? So without further ado, ain't nothing to it but to do it, so let's dive into it. What's up, YouTube? I'm back. It's me, it's your boy D. And continuing on with this Twisted Toons introduction of all the characters, this right here will be the last video that I'll do like this. And it's because I'm pretty much done. I went through each and every team, each and every organization like Police, the Gay Gang, the Deuce, every group of characters that we put together. So what this right here is basically all of the characters that are the randoms that do their own thing. They're not affiliated with any team. They just do their own thing and have their own story arcs. Some of them have major story arcs and are main characters. Some of them aren't used very much at all, but they exist in the universe, so we're going to talk about them. And this will be the last one of these I do. So for those of you that enjoy these, it'll probably be bittersweet, and I'll try to come up with something else related to this. For those of you that are tired of hearing me rambling on and on about this thing because you don't know what it is, it's probably going to make you happy, all right? But either way, we're bringing this to a conclusion, all right? So without further ado, let me not even waste nobody's time. Let's go on to the first character, all right? Let's do it.
Shaq.
All right, Shaq. All right, character number one of the randoms is none other than your boy Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal, all right? Now, if you're wondering why in the hell Shaq is a cast member of our franchise, Twisted Toons, I'm going to give you a little backstory on how this happened and then what his basically purpose is in his story arc, okay? So when we were writing this franchise and we got around to about season 2, Josh, my creator, basically, came up with this idea to start adding in celebrity guest stars within certain episodes within the franchise, just to do something different. And I thought it was pretty cool, so basically the idea was to have celebrity guest stars appear as like a one-off, doing something crazy with one of the characters, and then they're done. And we started off doing that at first. And as a matter of fact, the first celebrity guest we ever had appear on the franchise was Frankie Muniz from Malcolm in the Middle, all right? Because Josh hated Frankie Muniz. So basically, he drew a picture of Frankie Muniz in a bank as it's getting robbed by Mario and Sonic and Doug. And you can see Doug fanboying over Frankie Muniz while Mario is trying to hold him back. And that was his one-off appearance. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's it. Another guest star we had appear was Mr. Rogers when he was alive. For whatever reason, I just decided that was my idea. For whatever reason, I think I was watching an episode of South Park where they had Russell Crowe, the actor, beating up people everywhere he went at. So I just stole that and put it on to Mr. Rogers because I seen I guess Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was on TV at the time. I tacked that attitude onto him. And so what happened was he encountered us. He encountered me, Josh, and our boy Miguel, and tried it with us, and then basically got beat up at the end of the episode, okay? And then another celebrity guest appearance on the franchise was Nick Cannon, all right? Which was a Josh idea, because once upon a time, Nick Cannon, before Wildin' Out, before he was the Nick Cannon we know today, he came from Nickelodeon. I remember him debuting on all that, all right? So he had a show called The Nick Cannon Show where he would just take over random places and do random things. So we had an episode in the drawing of where he tried that with Bart, where he tried to take over Bart's mansion, basically. And then he fucked around and found out, all right, because Bart and Luigi and Scooby-Doo was about to give him the business, all right? Another one was Lil Bow Wow. We had Lil Bow Wow guest star on one of the episodes because both of us played hated on Bow Wow back then, all right? So we had him obviously having an encounter with the gay gang where they kidnapped him and had their way with him while you can see Jermaine Dupri running away as Bow Wow screaming for him to help, all right? So that was to be the premise of these celebrity appearances. So since we were doing this, I just happened to have like a Sports Illustrated magazine at one point in time. And I remember it had an animated drawing of Shaq in it, all right? And so for whatever reason, I just took that. I was like, well, we're doing celebrity appearances. So here's a picture of Shaq. Let me take it to Josh. So that's what I did. I took that picture to Josh, and then Josh agreed with me to add Shaq onto the franchise as a celebrity one-off appearance. That's what he was supposed to be. And his initial role within the series when we put him on here, because remember, he's supposed to be a one-off. So basically what I had him do, because around this time, Shaq was, like an endorser or an ambassador for Burger King. So they had a meal out at the time called the Shaq Pack that Shaq was always advertising on the commercials. Also around this time, the movie Shaft was out with Samuel L. Jackson in it. So there was this commercial where Shaq was dressed in a black trench coat playing basketball, and they were playing the Shaft theme song, and they were using that as like the Shaq Pack theme. You know what I'm saying? I remember the theme and everything. So basically, since he was representing Burger King and also playing for the Lakers around that time, and we couldn't stand the Lakers because they were so good. Shaq and Kobe were so good, we couldn't stand them. So since he was representing Burger King, I had his initial appearance on the franchise as being in the Burger King, basically, in his black trench coat, just trying to represent the franchise, and having an encounter, with none other than Ronald McDonald. So in the beginning, the first, appearance of Shaq you see is him having this encounter with Ronald McDonald, who is a representative of McDonald's, okay? And basically that is the only reason why I put them together. And so basically you see Ronald confronting Shaq, telling him that basically McDonald's is better than Burger King. Then at the end of the episode, Shaq beats up Ronald and walks back into the Burger King. And that was supposed to be the only appearance of Shaq on our franchise. A one-off where he beats up Ronald McDonald, okay, and goes on about his business. What ended up happening was, within that Shaq Pack commercial, there was a little white kid in that commercial, I guess sitting on the table eating his Burger King as Shaq is playing basketball. So for whatever reason, Josh came up with the idea to include this little boy into this picture and further utilize him as a character and basically have this story arc to where this little boy is trapped with Shaq. And I thought it was weird at first, but then we're teenage boys, so at the same time it's kind of funny. So okay, I took it and ran with it. So he got a picture where she's running out of the Burger King with this little kid, and basically it got pretty dark, okay? That ended up becoming Shaq's actual personality within the show. Is for some reason he has this weird obsession with this little white kid, and we never gave him a name. His name is basically the boy. That's what he's called, the boy. And Shaq just will not let him leave. He wants to go home to his parents, and Shaq won't let him. And we never made a real reason why. It got dark. It got to a place where, like I said, we're teenagers. So I'm writing this stuff, and obviously there's got to be a reason why he likes this kid so much or is obsessed with this kid so much. So we went to a place that we would never go to today because it's not funny, but it was I guess it was funny to us back then, but we kind of had Shaq, take advantage of this kid sometimes. And say, you know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at without me having to say it. But basically, it was meant to further progress that character into the weird, funny, dark humor type character that we were trying to make him, okay? So with that being said, that also brings back Ronald McDonald. Because once I put them together, I created magic, basically. Because within our franchise, Ronald McDonald becomes Shaq's greatest rival within the franchise. They are going at it left and right all the time. And it's all because for whatever reason, I have it so Ronald has made it his business to try to save this kid from Shaq. And he fails every time. He gets beat up every time. And there's been many attempts from people to try to save this kid, and they fail. There's an episode where we have Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, but there's an episode where I have Shaq at a Lakers game, playing the game, and the boy is sitting on the bench, and he's trying to escape, and Shaq sees him and calls timeout mid-game, and you see Kobe Bryant like, bro, what are you doing? You can't just call timeout like that, There's an episode where, again, Michael Jordan tried to step in and save this kid, and basically he gave this kid a pair of Air Jordans, some Wheaties, some Gatorade, a pair of Hanes, some Nikes, everything that basically Michael Jordan was associated with. Shaq caught up with him, beat up Michael Jordan, and then gave him everything Shaq related. He made him wear some Air Shaqs, And that was the thing. The kid could only do things Shaq related. He could only wear Shaq shoes. He could only watch the movies Blue Chips, Kazam, and Steel, because those are all Shaq movies. He could only listen to Shaq's rap albums from the 90s, all right? He could only eat Shaq packs. So, Shaq had an obsession with this kid, and it spilled into him and Ronald always going at it. Then we had it at one point, this boy finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired of Shaq and challenged him to a one-on-one basketball game for his freedom, which Shaq obviously laughed off, all right? But he ended up actually beating Shaq. As a matter of fact, he ended up crossing Shaq up, wetting threes on him, even dunked on him, and broke the glass, and even intentionally fouled Shaq to make him have to shoot free throws, because Shaq can't shoot free throws, all right? And he ended up finally being able to escape or thinking that he could escape, but what happened is he's trying to ride his bike back home, and of course Shaq pulls up in his Lakers car, knocks the kid off his bike, and kidnaps him back, all right? And it's just like that. That's basically Shaq's story arc throughout the franchise. It's him with this little kid obsessed with him, and him beefing with Ronald McDonald 24/7, who keeps trying to save this kid and keeps getting his ass beat all the while. All the way up until, we got to a point where we finally let the little boy escape from Shaq, all right? And so what happened was Shaq ended up losing his mind, actually crying and everything, to the point where around season 3, Shaq ends up going to this kid's house and approaching his mom, dressed as a little kid. Basically, you have Shaq approaching this kid's mom with a propeller hat on, his shirt tucked in, some knee-high, some nut-hugging shorts, and some knee-high socks, because he thinks that's how little kids dress, just to try to get this kid back. It's sick, but it was meant to be humorous at the same time. And that was pretty much where we stopped at with Shaq, until he ended up joining a presidential alliance with Yakko, who ended up, becoming the president towards the end. And then he would become the heavy. And then after that, we pretty much stopped with the writing, all right? But in a nutshell, that is Shaq. Shaq is the real Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal. If he was to ever see this, I got nothing but respect for Shaq, and I hope he would forgive me for doing us forgive me and my boy for doing something like this. That's just where our mindset was at the time, okay? But obviously we know that Shaq is not like that. But in our universe, that's pretty much what he is, all right? And in a nutshell, that's Shaq for you, all right? So let's move on to the next. Elliot. All right, Elliot. Now, this right here, this particular character right here, because I know a lot of people don't know who the fuck this is. I'm going to explain Elliot, all about him, and all about his story arc, because I believe this character right here is probably some of the best storytelling that I've ever told personally as a writer. Okay, now Elliot, who is Elliot? Okay, Elliot is a character that exists in real life. This isn't a character that we made up or created. Elliot is a character that I discovered from one of my little sister Brittany's children's books entitled Elliot Drives Away by Matt Curtis. I just happened to be, I guess I was cleaning the house one day, and I was cleaning my little sister's room, and I was going through her things, and obviously I had this Twisted Toons things going on with Josh. So I was always looking for new ideas and new characters to draw. So as I'm putting her books away, I saw this book, Elliot Drives Away by Matt Curtis. And I just took a look at that character for some reason, and I was like, you know what? I think we could do something with him. So I took that book and took it to school and showed Josh this character. And I was like, let's do something with him. And Josh liked it. And so my initial purpose for him, or idea for him, was at first he was just supposed to be another little punk bitch that gets fucked with. And it was basically because he just looked like that type of character. So in the beginning, that's what I wanted him to be. So in the very beginning, when Josh drew a picture of him, it was just a picture of him in a park with bright colors, rainbows and everything, reading a book, because his personality is he's supposed to be like a kind-hearted guy. So he's just sitting there reading a rainbow book or something. But in the background, you can see Luigi in a black and green do-rag shooting his gun in the air, signaling that you know where you at. You know what I'm saying? You ain't in happy fairy tale land. You in basically Twisted Toons universe. But when he drew that picture, it gave me an idea. Because again, I just happen to be watching movies and stuff, and I always get ideas from these movies. So I was watching the movie Higher Learning. Same movie that I got some of the inspiration for Superman from. So there's a scene in there where the skinhead, Remy, gets, says something to the main character, Omar Epps, Malik, which offends him, which provokes Malik to go and confront Remy in his college dorm room. And when he does, Remy backs down from him. But after Omar Epps leaves, this character played by Michael Rappaport, Remy, goes on a rampage in his college dorm and starts tearing shit up. And he's tearing all of his roommate shit up, which is the catch. And then his roommate comes back and he's irritated with him. So I took that idea, I took that picture that Josh drew, and so basically what it is I had it so Elliot is a guy that owed Luigi some money and didn't pay up. So Luigi confronted him basically, and basically beat the shit out of him on that initial episode that he appeared on, and basically pumped him out, all right? So this is where I made Elliot a college student, because I was watching Higher Learning. So with that being said, that took place on the college dorm. So I had Elliot be a college student. So after he gets beat up by Luigi, I have him go to his college dorm, really upset. But here's the catch. Once he got upset to the point where he couldn't take it anymore, because I basically had him as a guy that starts shaking and rocking back and forth like this. So he's rocking, and what happens when Elliot does that, and apologies for that, sometimes unexpected interruptions happen, all right? But what I was saying was, when Elliot starts doing that, something happens to him. I gave him this demonic, possessed alter ego that he can't control. So when he gets angry, his eyes start to turn red and he turns into this demon version of himself that basically can't control his actions and attacks, basically he just turns into a demon, which he can't control, which isn't explained right away. So what happens is, that episode, after he gets punked out by Luigi, I make it so he goes into his dorm room like Remy did and tear up all of the shit in there, basically all his roommate shit. Then after that, I have him rock back and forth and reveal his demon self to the audience at first. Nobody's in there, it's just him. Then I have it a little bit later on where he's calmed down and he's sitting in his dorm room playing his guitar, because that's an important part of his story arc, is his guitar. He loves his little guitar. And as he walks in, as he's doing that, his roommate, who I gave the name John, that's it, walks in and realizes that all his shit is tore up. So when the roommate sees this, he reacts like the roommate did on Higher Learning, where he's pissed off. But this guy, John, is looking at Elliot like, you're a little punk. Like, why would you do this? So he's like pushing him, like, dude, the fuck's your problem? Like, talk to me, because Elliot is ignoring him. Even though he's trying to get Elliot to explain what's going on, Elliot's just, kind of steady playing his guitar, not really paying him any mind. Trying to, be nice about the situation. But this guy doesn't want to hear it. So eventually he gets to attacking Elliot to the point where Elliot gets upset and reveals his demon side to the roommate and actually attacks the roommate. And from that point forward, this character, John, becomes the protagonist to Elliot's main story arc. Because after that, now I have a character for this kid. Now I can do something with him. So now there was a string of episodes that I wrote where it was nothing but Elliot and what he had going on, alright? So I had to establish that he is this demonic possessed dude that attacks his roommate a lot, okay? And I have it to where he's got this weird, he's this weirdly nice guy. Other people that don't know him think that he's just the nicest guy in the world. All he does is read books, plays his guitar. He has a thing for playing TV show theme songs. Like, basically, there's an episode to where they have midterms to do, and Elliot is playing his damn guitar, and he plays it all night long, to the point where his roommate John is trying to sleep, because, dude, we have these classes to study for. Well, they're in bunk beds, so I have it to where Elliot is on his guitar and his roommate tries to get him to be quiet, to where Elliot turns his head all the way around, Exorcist style, and shows his demon face to his roommate, to where his roommate turns back around and just lays on his bed with his eyes bloodshot red, wide open, like, okay, man, I'm not going to say nothing to you. And Elliot continues on playing. Then what happens the next day is they take their midterms and John fails ridiculously while Elliot passes, because he got, John fails because he didn't get no sleep, while Elliot passes, and then he's questioning John like, now how did you fail, And he's like, motherfucker, you know how I failed, And that's basically what it is. And whenever John complains at Elliot about something, Elliot likes to take his guitar and sing. He's like, let me sing a song for you, John. And he calls him Jonathan also. He keeps telling Elliot that his name is John, just John. But Elliot calls him Jonathan. That's just his thing. And he'll do this thing where he'll say, let me tell you something. Let me play a song for you, Jonathan. And he'll play something like the Cheers theme song. So John will be looking like, what the fuck? And then for whatever reason, whenever Elliot sings, the chorus of the theme song plays behind him. And John is always looking around like, where is this coming from? Okay, to to the point where he's requesting to be removed, like going to the dean, asking to be removed. Nobody believes him about Elliot. He's using a cross towards him. It even got to the point where John decided to hire another character that I'm going to talk about in this video. The same big fat prisoner that took advantage of Doug to do the same thing to Elliot. We have that episode where he paid this guy to do that. The guy attempted to take advantage of Elliot while Elliot is running away from him. And eventually he pissed Elliot off enough to reveal the demon side and got dealt with. And then John got handled again on top of that, all right? So then we get to dive more into Elliot's backstory, okay? Because it's well known by the audience at this time how he gets when he's upset. But people want to know why. So I came up with this, Josh and I together came up with this backstory as to why he's like this. So basically in that book, you also can see Elliot's dad and big brother, alright? So basically Josh came up with this backstory to where as Elliot is a little kid living with his dad and his big brother, that they took advantage of Elliot as a kid. And if you can see on the visual, you'll see what I'm talking about without me having to say it. But those two would often take advantage of Elliot. You know what I mean? To the point where Elliot as a little kid got fed up and he knew that his father owned a shotgun. So he went into his dad's closet to grab his shotgun because he wanted to take care of his dad and his brother himself. What ended up happening was there was just a random jar of acid in that closet because his dad was also on drugs. And he spilled it. And what happened was when he spilled this acid on the floor, it burned a hole into the floor and revealed a gateway, portal, whatever you want to call it, to an alternate dimension, alternate reality, all right? And Elliot, being curious, kind of peeked his head into it. And what happened is a flower wrapped itself around him and grabbed him and pulled him into this portal. And when he went into this portal, he goes to a place called Happy Land. And basically what that is this magical, happy place where everything's magical and happy. The sun, the flowers are dancing, there's munchkins, everything you can think of that's joyous, all right? And within this Happy Land is a kingdom where there is a king and queen of Happy Land. And he meets them as a kid. And they resemble Elliot a lot because they are revealed to be his actual birth parents. So the man and the boy that he's lived with in the Earth reality are not really his. He was adopted by them, which explains why they take advantage of him all the time. So he gets to, and he also reveals in the story that even though it's Happy Land, there's also a dark area within that Happy Land that is forbidden, that the king and queen forbid him to go to as a kid. Well, you're not going to listen as a kid. Your curiosity is going to be piqued. So he basically made his way over there into the dark area. And just like the elephant graveyard on the Lion King, he found out why. Because it's the opposite of everything in Happy Land. So basically in the dark lands is nothing but evilness, ghouls, ghosts, graveyards. The moon is evil. The trees are evil. Everything. And the ruler of that dark land is a dark underlord who is actually the brother of the king, all right? And basically he is jealous of that king because he got the son that the Dark Lord always wanted. So when Elliot made his way over there, he put a spell on Elliot and his little guitar, which explains why Elliot turns into a demon, because he wasn't fully able to put that spell on him because Elliot was able to escape. But he got enough of him to where it comes out when he's angry. So with that being said and him doing all that, the king and queen thought it was best to send him up to an alternate reality, Earth or whatever you call it. And that's why he is the way he is. And we had him explain that to John, his roommate, because we had John try to figure out what the deal is with him. We had John try to get on his good side. There's an episode where we had John take him out on a double date with his girlfriend and some hooker that they hired for Elliot, because he felt like this kid just needs to get laid or something, you know. And in that picture, you can see Elliot visibly uncomfortable with this girl kissing all on him, because he's kind of an asexual person. He don't care about all of that. So it's bothering him. And John's trying to figure out what the deal is with him. So that's why he kind of asked him about his backstory and figured it out. And of course, when he tells John about this, John don't believe him. Right? When he tells him about this, he's just like, what? Like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. So John thinks he's full of shit. So then what ends up happening is he takes John there himself. You know, he basically, he takes John there himself and shows John exactly what he was talking about. So now he's got John in this happy world land, and John just can't believe this place actually exists. And then he points over there to the dark area, and he's like, well, what's this? And Elliot is explaining to him, no, we don't need to go there, because this is why we shouldn't go, because he knows better. But John is calling his bluff, calling him a little bitch, calling him, man, don't act like a chicken now, you know. What's so bad about it? Oh, you scared? So Elliot tries to warn him, but he talks him into going there anyways. But he tells John, stick with me, stay by me, don't separate from me. And basically what happens is, somehow John got separated from him because it's so dark and scary there, because John got spooked the second he went there. And what happened was, I kind of stole from the Michael Jackson Thriller video, to where basically John can't find Elliot now. He's all looking around, and the camera spins on John, and he's looking for Elliot. And when he turns around, Elliot is just like how Michael Jackson was, now a zombie, with his red eyes, and he's in zombie form, and he's dancing with all these zombies like Michael Jackson did on the Thriller video, approaching John, all the way to the point where I have John run into some abandoned house like the girl did on Thriller, and to where they all, you know, reach out to touch John like they did the girl, and he screams. And then when he opens his eyes, it's just regular Elliot, like Michael Jackson. And he's like, hey, what's the matter? Come on, I'll take you home. And so then when he goes to take John home, he turns around and looks at the camera like Michael did with his cat eyes, and John and Elliot's got his red eyes looking at the camera. And then you hear John scream in the background, signaling that this is going to be a continuation of what it's already been, all right? And then there was an episode where we have the dad and brother come back as adults. You know, Elliot's an adult now, his brother's an adult, the dad is older, so they come back again to try to take advantage of Elliot while he's in his dorm room. But Elliot's hip to him this time, so he puts a dummy on the bed with a curly hair wig on, and they jump on the bed to try to take advantage of him. And of course, he's not there. And if you look into the corner, you can see him perched up on like a file cabinet in the frog position, ready to pounce on him, all right? And it gets all the way to the point where John, the roommate, has had enough and comes up with this plot to finally get rid of Elliot and kill Elliot, because Elliot told him that there was a spell put on his guitar. So basically his guitar is the key to getting him. So one day we have John take a can of gasoline and start pouring it on Elliot's guitar. And while Elliot's in his room doing his studies, he notices that he smells like gasoline. So then he knows what's going on. So he runs to try to get his guitar and sees his roommate John with that match, and like, please don't drop that. And John's had enough, basically drops it. And when the guitar is set on fire, it sets Elliot on fire, and he's basically meets his demise, or so you think, right there. So then, you know, you have the roommate John partying that he's gone and everything, and he thinks everything is everything. You have the dad and brother return, to jack up John to try to figure out where Elliot is. All in the way until you get up to an episode where John is in the mirror trying to get himself ready, and Elliot comes out of the mirror, you know, basically saying, you didn't get me, and John is spooked out of his skin. Then he has John pinned up on the spiderweb looking thing with a knife, alright? He didn't do nothing to him, but we kind of ended it there because, see, the thing is, Elliot never actually kills the guy. He just tortures him. Until we finally transitioned Elliot on to something different. Because what I was doing with him was starting to run its course. And I was starting to repeat myself. So Josh came up with this idea to have Elliot go to Monster Academy or Scare School. Because after a while, John was getting hip to him and not being scared of him no more. So Elliot had to, you know, come up with something different. So what he came up with was, I gotta go to Scare Academy and get my mojo back. So he signs up to go to the Scare Academy with all these other horror movie icons. So he's back in like a college setting now with other classmates, and these classmates are Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street, Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, Chucky from the Child's Play series, Michael Myers from the Halloween franchise, Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, Pennywise from Stephen King's It, Ghostface from the Scream franchise, even old Ben Willis from I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Fisherman, Jigsaw from Saw, along with Mike from fucking Monsters Inc., Ickis from Our Real Monsters, and even Casper the Friendly Ghost, who's trying to just become scary in general, okay? All being instructed by their professor, Pinhead from Hellraiser, and his assistant professor, Bigfoot, alright? Don't ask me how I came up with this stuff, I just did. And so they're all classmates, alright? And Chucky is the most outspoken one. And it gets to the point where he calls Elliot's bluff, like, dude, you're not really a killer. We're all killers. We've all killed. All you do is torture your guy. So you gotta prove it to us. So it gets to a point where Elliot actually kills his roommate John. And that was done because we had nothing further to do with John after that. Elliot was the character we were using. So there was really nothing to do with him. So we killed them all. So Elliot could prove that he was an actual killer. And then they graduate school and you see them all partying. Everybody but Casper, who's sitting in the corner with a dunce hat on, alright? And then he goes off about his business. And then after that, Elliot's not used very much for a while because we transition on to other characters. You know, he makes an appearance in season 3, you know, looking paranoid at the fact that John is gone. And so that was to be the next step for him. We just stopped doing it, so it never got that far, right? So that's Elliot. And I know that was a long story arc, but like I said, that was a long... We had to introduce him because he's not well known. So that was the premises for him, all right? So with that being said, that is Elliot, all right? So let's move on to the next character.
Ash Ketchum.
All right, Ash Ketchum. Ash from Pokemon. Now, like Elliot, Ash has a lot of story arc and development too, okay? But that's not how it was in the beginning, okay? So in the beginning, Ash is an original character, but in the beginning, he was just one of those characters that just appeared. There was nothing really to do for him. He just appeared. What ended up happening was, I'm a huge fan of South Park. I get a lot of my inspiration for this from South Park. So one of my favorite characters on South Park is the teacher, Mr. Garrison. The one that carries that sock puppet, Mr. Hat. And because for whatever reason, that character has just always been funny to me. His demeanor, the way he talks, the way he carries himself, the story arcs that they put behind him, just has always been hilarious to me. Even more so sometimes than Cartman and Randy. All right. So around that time, Mr. Garrison is gay on South Park, but he wasn't always like that. There was a story arc in the earlier seasons where everybody kept accusing Mr. Garrison of being gay, but he swore up and down he wasn't. So I took that and tacked that character onto Ash because, number one, I had nothing to do for Ash, and I liked that Mr. Garrison character so much, I wanted the equivalent to that on our franchise. So in the beginning, how that happened was, I wrote an episode 44, called Princess Peach's House Party, second house party. And I stole an idea from South Park because there was an episode of South Park I watched where Randy, Stan's dad, and Gerald, Cal's dad, were at a party together. And for whatever reason, they were talking about masturbating in front of each other and how it's not gay. And so they ended up doing it. But then what happened is Randy ended up getting paranoid after that. Like it was gay. And it was. And Gerald was trying to still be friends and not ruin their relationship. And it was getting weird to Randy and he was trying to avoid Gerald. So I took that. And so on that house party episode, I had Ash Ketchum basically playing the Randy role, along with Link, again, Link, a character that I use for multiple things, playing the Gerald role. I had those two as friends, and they were at this house party, and Ash was talking about, they were talking about what Randy and Gerald were talking about, men masturbating in front of each other, all right, and how it's not necessarily gay. And so they did it because Link is the character on the franchise that masturbates. That's his thing. So they did it. And then what happened was I had Ash, like Randy, become paranoid, thinking that was zesty and gay, and it was. And I had Link continuously try to, keep his relationship with Ash to the point where Ash is trying to avoid him, to the point where Ash becomes so paranoid that he invents this sock puppet called Mr. Sockins. And that was meant to be his version of Mr. Hat, because at that point forward, Ash was going to be our version of Mr. Garrison. That is why I made Ash a school teacher on top of that. Because I was like, if he's going to be Mr. Garrison, he's got to be a school teacher on top of that with the sock puppet. So there's a slew of episodes of where I just bit from South Park, basically, and tacked it on to Ash. Like I said, I had Link still trying to be friends with him, following him, crying. I remember the episode where we introduced Goku. It's the same episode where I have Link and Ash. Link is crying, trying to get Ash to be his friend. And Ash is sitting there with Mr. Sockins like, get away from me. And Mr. Sockins' original look was a sock puppet with the hat turned backwards like Ash. That's how it was supposed to look. Obviously, AI is going to do its own thing with it, but that's how he's supposed to look. And basically, Mr. Sockins became Ash's alter ego personality, the sock that he talked to, just like Mr. Garrison and Mr. Hat. He also had sex with the thing like Mr. Garrison and Mr. Hat. And we have it so that the sock actually moves and talks on his own when he's not on camera, like Mr. Hat. And so I wrote a lot of episodes copying off Mr. Garrison. There was an episode where Mr. Garrison wanted his dad to molest him and they went to Arkansas or something. I wrote the same thing for Ash, only they were in Alabama, right? All the way up until the point where Mr. Garrison finally came out and admitted that he's gay. That's the only difference between our character and theirs. There was even an episode where Mr. Garrison created some kind of vehicle to try to compete with the airline that was clearly a gay vehicle that's what it was meant to represent. So then we had Ash turn around and make his own version of it, all right? All the way up until Mr. Garrison on South Park admitted that he was gay. That's where we stopped doing the comparisons because I never wanted Ash to admit it. So to this day, he's never came clean about that. It's always a mystery with him. I wanted to keep that character going and with the sock puppet because I liked it. So once we got done copying the Mr. Garrison story arc, I transitioned Ash into something different. He was obviously still the school teacher, but he was also doing something different, all right? Now him as a school teacher is another thing. You know, I had him as the teacher of the South Park kids. I would also have him in the teacher's lounge a lot of the time. You're having conversations with Superman, who's also a teacher, you know, and everything else. But the next major story arc I put him in was this back and forth story arc with Johnny 2x4 and Plank because of the similarities of their characters. Because once again, my apologies. Things happen, all right? But as I said, because of their similarities, because Johnny has Plank, I came up with this idea to where they have these interactions to where they keep accusing the other's object of doing things. Basically, Johnny's beefing with Ash because Ash swears up and down that his Plank is fucking with Mr. Sockins, while all the while Ash keeps saying no, or Johnny keeps saying no, it's your sock that keeps fucking with my Plank. And basically what happens is behind the scenes, these two objects actually are fucking with each other. You know, there's a thing where I think Mr. Sockins set Plank on fire and Johnny caught it. And another thing where Plank is about to drop Mr. Sockins into a boiling pot of like hot lava or something, and Ash catches it. So there's legit reasons to why they're beefing with each other. And it trickles down all the way up into the movie that I made, where they're invited onto this talk show and they're going at it with each other to the point where they get the police called on them and they're taken to jail, and Mr. Sockins and Plank are nowhere to be found. And so what ends up happening is when I wrote the sequel to the first movie, they're included into that sequel, all right? And you see them in jail, continuing on from when they got arrested. And they're arguing back and forth with each other, all the way up until the point where Johnny gets approached by these prisoners. As you know, if you watch my video about the police, as you know, Johnny was also a part-time police officer. So now he's locked up. So he gets approached by two of the guys that he helped locked up. And so Ash is making fun of him because Johnny's about to get his ass whooped, basically. And that's what happens is Johnny's getting beat up by these two guys that he helped lock up while Ash is laughing. While Ash is laughing, there's a shadowy figure approaching him, and it's basically a big-ass black dude prisoner. Alright? Approaching Ash, Fleece Johnson style, to get the goods from him, to take advantage of Ash, to S.A. Ash, and that, believe it or not, is exactly what Josh drew and exactly what happened. Ash got taken advantage of, okay? So now the aftermath of that is you got Johnny 2x4 and Ash sitting in the prison cell. Johnny's all beat up. Ash is all shaken up, not speaking to each other. And then all of a sudden a car crashes into the wall out of nowhere, breaks the brick wall down, basically releasing them. And then when they look to see who's driving this vehicle, is none other than Plank and Mr. Sockins, which is also an idea that I stole from South Park, all right? And it lets them escape. And that pretty much from that point on, I believe I kind of separated them. And Johnny went on to his next story arc, and Ash kind of cooled down and went on to his. Because like Elliot, there was a lot, just like Elliot, I ended up writing a whole lot of story arc for just Ash, and I did it so much that we overdid it basically. And after that, there's an appearance in season 3 that Ash and Mr. Sockins made, where he's trying to holler at like Little Red Riding Hood, and we basically didn't continue on. It stopped right there because we didn't continue the franchise after that. So I don't know where we would have went at with that, but that was basically Ash in a nutshell, all right? He's this weird kid who's probably gay with this sock puppet, all right? And that's pretty much it, all right? So with that being said, let's move on to the next character, all right? Velma. All right, Velma, the last member from the Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc. gang that I haven't talked about yet. And that's because, unlike the other 4, Velma's not associated with any other groups. Velma's just Velma. Velma's herself, all right? Velma's first appearance comes in episode 4, along with the rest of the Mystery Inc. gang. And basically her main purpose or role is, in the beginning, she was just a neurotic girl that had a crush on Shaggy, that Shaggy didn't want nothing to do with. And also had a crush on Fred, that Fred didn't want nothing to do with, because they both wanted Daphne. As time progressed, because after those couple episodes, we didn't use Velma much. It was the other 3 or other 4 that we used more. So I wanted to do something with Velma also. So I came up with this thing with her where basically Velma in our franchise is this neurotic stalker girl that stinks really bad. And that's her main thing, is that she stinks. But she doesn't realize that she stinks, all right? And when I say she stinks, she stinks. You know, people on the franchise say she smells like dumpster juice, skunk ass, whatever you want to call it. And she argues down with every one of them, I don't stink. But yeah, Velma, you stink. Fred says it to her, you know, and that's kind of her thing. And she doesn't realize why people think that she stinks, but she does, all right? Like I said in the beginning, she wanted Shaggy, and he didn't want her. After a while, we had it to where, even though Fred is gay on our franchise, there was a little period of time in there where, along with Doug, Fred decided to go straight. So when that happened, basically we made it to where Fred was trying his hardest to put the Mystery Inc. gang back together. And that was done because I wanted to have Shaggy and Fred reunite their beef, or rekindle the beef that we had for them in the beginning. So one of the things he had to do was recruit them all, including Velma. So we had a thing to where Velma basically would not join unless he agreed to sleep with her. So there's a photo where basically Fred is about to sleep with Velma, but he's repulsed, and she's disgusting, and he's just repulsed by it. You know what I mean? There's another photo where he's like basically looking at it's like he's looking at a piece of, he's got a piece of cheese. I know that I can't even explain this picture, but basically he's got a picture of Daphne, and then in his window you see Velma stalking him, and he's allergic to Velma, so you can see him breaking out in hives and everything, all right? And that's just the thing with Velma. She appears in a lot of episodes randomly as herself, just as the girl that stinks. Like, can you get away from me, or things like that. And she's also a stalker, all right? And that's pretty much it for Velma. There's not much else to say about her. It's just, she stinks really bad. That is her role on the franchise, is she's the girl that stinks and nobody really wants to sleep with, you know what I mean? And with that being said, man, that's Velma, all right? So So let's move on to the next character, all right? Timmy Turner. All right, Timmy Turner. Timmy Turner from the Fairly Odd Parents. Now, Timmy's inclusion on the franchise was Josh's idea. You know, he decided to put old Timmy Turner on there. And Timmy Turner's role on the franchise is pretty much basically he is our resident addict on the show. And what I mean by he's our resident addict is whatever the drug is, he's hooked on it. Whether it's a rock, a substance, a needle, whatever it is, powder, he is on it, addicted to it. And every episode that he appears in, because he appears in a lot of episodes, is him trying to get his next fix. You know, there's an episode of him trying to get some product from Garfield. There's an episode where his Fairly Odd Parents, Cosmo and Wanda, torture him and have a pool full of the white powder where he wants to get into, or no, as a matter of fact, no, he has a pool full of white powder on one of them episodes. And there's another episode where they torture him basically, and he tries to get to the product, and they have the TV, cords grab him, all right? And that's all he is. He's like our Ezel, our version of Ezel from Friday. If you've ever seen the movie Friday, that's Timmy Turner. And he's always trying to get his next hit, his next fix. He won't go get help. He wants to be left alone when you try to tell him to go get help. He's just a full-blown addict. And I know it's not fun to make fun of addicts, but for the purpose of our franchise, which is meant to be, raunchy and all that type of stuff, yeah, he is our resident drug addict, all right? And that's it. Obviously, his character is one of the funnier ones because we always have him doing wacky things, trying to get the next hit. But other than that, that's it. He doesn't have any real importance because he's just what he is, the addict, all right? So with that being said, that's Timmy Turner, all right? Let's move on to the next character. Eddy and Eddy. All right, Eddy and Eddy. All right, the Eddy boys, Eddy and Eddy. Now, Eddy and Eddy are basically some of our favorite characters to write for. They appear in the first season. I don't remember exactly what episode. And they're basically just three straight gangsters, three thugs, and they are Skeeter's boys from Doug, basically, from Team Bart. Skeeter from Team Bart. They appear on his first episode with him, and they're introduced as part of his posse, basically. But they're not always around Skeeter, They're with him when he joined Team Bart, but they also do their own thing, There's scenes where they beat up Johnny from 2x4 and Plank, because obviously they know him, so they don't fuck with him. So there's a lot of episodes where they're fucking with him. There's a couple episodes where they get arrested together. There's an episode in particular where they're beefing along with Skeeter with Team Mario, where you see Skeeter standing toe-to-toe, 10 toes down with Mario, and right behind Skeeter is his boys, Eddy and Eddy, all right? And that's pretty much what they are. They're not associated with any team, because I didn't feel the need to put them with any team. They're cool by them, just the way they are by themselves, all right? But they are affiliated with Team Bart, mainly because their boy, Skeeter, is on Team Bart. So even in the movie, Eddy and Eddy are recruited by their boys Skeeter and Luigi, all right? And that's pretty much their role throughout the franchise. Eddy in particular, when Skeeter's not around, I guess you can say is the de facto leader of that little crew. He also gets his own little story arc, as I have him beefing with Spy Guy from Team Mario, from a beef that they had back in the days. But other than that, they're always pretty much together, whether they be running the streets together, whether they're in the strip club together, doing things, And when they ain't with Skeeter, they just ripping and roaring the streets. And that's Eddy and Eddy in a nutshell, all right? They appear in a whole lot of episodes and some of the more prominent cast members on the franchise, alright? And with that being said, that's pretty much Ed, Edd, and Eddy, alright? So without further ado, let's move on to the next character, alright?
Courage, the Cowardly Dog.
Alright, Courage. Courage the Cowardly Dog, alright? Now, Courage, again, is another one of our resident street gangsters on the show, alright? Courage is the other part of Skeeter's little crew, alright? Skeeter, Ed, Edd, and Eddy, and Courage were pretty much always together. And without Skeeter, Courage is pretty much always exclusively hanging out with Ed, Edd, and Eddy. He's one of their boys. He's just the last member of that crew. As a matter of fact, in that picture where Skeeter is standing 10 toes down with Mario, behind him is Ed, Edd, and Eddy, and also Courage. Okay, he's one of Skeeter's boys. He's the more laid-back thug of the group. All right. Also, in the other picture where Ed, Edd, and Eddy are beating up Johnny, Courage is also right there along with him. All right. He's cowardly on his show, but on our show, Courage is a straight gangster, dope boy. You know what I'm saying? He does his own thing too on the side. He ain't always with Ed, Edd, and Eddy, but for the most part, that's pretty much where he always is, all right? And of course, we was gonna make Courage gangster. I mean, we like Courage, so why not? And again, he's not affiliated with any of the teams, but obviously he's an ally to Team Bart, along with Ed, Edd, and Eddy, and his boy Skeeter, all right? And that's pretty much Courage. To be honest with you, he appears in a lot of episodes along with his boys. You know what I'm saying? We don't just throw him out on the wayside. But Courage is a lot like a lot of the other characters that we like on this show. Just another thug, all right? And that's pretty much Courage. So with that being said, let's move on to the next character, all right?
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Alright, SpongeBob SquarePants. Old SpongeBob himself. Now, SpongeBob alone is already an icon by himself. So, obviously, we got Bugs and Mickey and Mario. Obviously, we was going to have SpongeBob somewhere up on this motherfucker, alright? Now, SpongeBob has an interesting character arc personality within our franchise. Because within our franchise, SpongeBob is our resident late night talk show host. Basically, SpongeBob is our version of Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers, Jon Stewart, those types of people. You know, he's one of those. Seth Meyers, if I didn't already say him. But originally, I wrote him as a talk show host. Like, originally on our franchise, he was to be the Jerry Springer, Maury Povich, Dr. Phil type character. And he written into the franchise, and on the pictures, you'll see the SpongeBob SquarePants show with him with the microphone and the suit tie. Because that's what he was to be. Because I was watching Jerry Springer around that time and wanted a character like that. So I just used SpongeBob in that role. But fast forward into today, I would have him more suited as like a Jimmy Kimmel with a Tonight Show, where he'd have certain guests on the show, like, Bugs Bunny or whoever. And he plays a major role as that Hollywood, late night host. Even on the movie, the whole thing with Ash and Johnny takes place on his show, on the SpongeBob SquarePants show. You know what I mean? Along with another story arc between Bugs Bunny and Lola Bunny, where they were going at it on the SpongeBob show, all right? And that's pretty much what he is. His only interactions with the main characters is when they come on his show, and he's just got the main late night #1 television show, the SpongeBob SquarePants show, all right? And that's pretty much it for SpongeBob. He's just a talk show host, all right? That's it. So with that being said, let's move on to the next character, all right?
Jigglypuff.
Alright, Jigglypuff. Now, Jigglypuff is one of the original cast members of the franchise. Jigglypuff actually plays an important role within the franchise because Jigglypuff is the original girlfriend, baby mama of our main character, Super Mario, within the franchise. I know I introduced him as being with Rapunzel from Disney, which he is, but originally that wasn't the case because originally Rapunzel did not exist, not in the Disney version. So at the time, when Josh first started drawing these pictures, I wanted him to draw Mario with a female character. And the only female character that came to mind at that time, for whatever reason, just happened to be Jigglypuff from Pokemon. So him with his quick thinking just drew Jigglypuff in the bed with Mario. And so from that point forward, she was his main girlfriend. And we made her his baby mama and all that. And their relationship was super fucking toxic. The reason why it was changed here recently is because obviously Mario is our main character. So I wanted him to have a better girlfriend than Jigglypuff. So that's why I put Rapunzel with him. But when I did that, I came up with the idea to have Rapunzel and Jigglypuff actually beefing with each other because of that reason. Because Jigglypuff is still in love with him, but that's Rapunzel's man. So they have a little rivalry of their own because of that reason. But yeah, Jigglypuff is the original girlfriend of Mario on our show before we gave it to Rapunzel. And she appears on a lot of episodes here and there, but mainly just to be the baby mama to Mario. She appears with him in the Valentine's Day episode that we wrote, where Doug is playing Cupid and he shoots arrows into Mario after they were fighting and makes him fall in love with her temporarily until it wears off and he cusses her out, things of that nature, all right? But that's pretty much Jigglypuff in a nutshell, and she kind of fades off after a while, especially once I bring Rapunzel, all right? And that's pretty much it, all right? So with that being said, let's move on to the next character, all right?
Popeye.
All right, Popeye the Sailor Man, all right. So now Popeye is one of them random characters that just appears randomly throughout our franchise. He was my idea to add simply because I just had a picture of Popeye and wanted Josh to draw him in some capacity. So in the beginning, when he first appeared, Popeye just appeared as himself and was basically, again, having a beef with Ronald McDonald. Why? Because Ronald is the McDonald's guy, and Popeye, being Popeye, we kind of had him like as a Popeye's chicken guy. As a matter of fact, there's one little story arc where he actually is working at a Popeye's chicken that he owns with chicken behind the counter as if he's about to cook him or something, all right? But other than that, Popeye just appeared as himself originally, and then Josh gave him the personality of a homeless guy. For whatever reason, Josh had thought it would be funny to make Popeye homeless. Him being a sailor, I was like, okay, yeah, he's like the homeless veteran. So I get it. So Popeye is a guy you see sitting up on the corner somewhere on the street curb, just looking for wherever he can lay his head, He was kind of a little bit involved in a little beef with Spy Guy and Eddy. I know there was one episode where Spy Guy is like questioning Popeye with a picture of Eddy saying, this motherfucker and all this. He also isn't affiliated with any of the teams, but he has been an ally to Team Bart. I know in the movie he was recruited by Skeeter and Luigi. But other than that, that's pretty much his only role, is he's just the homeless guy that's always somewhere around doing something, and that's it. So with that being said, that's Popeye. Let's move on to the next character, all right?
Cookie Monster.
All right, Cookie Monster. Now, Cookie Monster is basically, he's a part of the franchise, but Josh never really drew him. Josh just knows how to draw him. And he's always mentioned frequently. He just doesn't make a lot of appearances. Reason being is because in our franchise, Cookie Monster is a hardcore kingpin, hardened prisoner. Basically, he's always in prison, in the feds, locked up for something. He's the one that has, I'm always saying these people got their work, but Cookie Monster is the one that really has it. Like, he's got bricks, pounds, ounces, things like that. Obviously, his main product is cookies, but he got everything. He's a guy that, even though he's in prison, got all kinds of connections and can get anything from anywhere, even behind the prison walls. And that's pretty much it. He's a hardened prisoner. He's always in prison. There was a short period of time where he was out. During the movie, he actually aids Team Bart because of his homeboy Elmo, who was a part of Team Bart. But after that, he's back in the feds after he gets caught. And that's pretty much what Cookie Monster's role is. The pod boss in the prison that he's in. And he's just that prisoner kingpin that got everything, all right? And that's Cookie Monster. That's it. So with that being said, let's move on to the next character, all right?
Lisa Simpson.
All right, Lisa Simpson. Lisa, the sister. I talked about Bart, Marge, and Homer. Now we get to Lisa. And Lisa's role within our franchise, first of all, she exists in the universe, but she's never been drawn by Josh. But I know that he can draw her. She's just always mentioned because in our franchise, Lisa Simpson is our President of the United States. She's a Democrat. We made her the Democrat President of the United States that oversees all of this, all right? And she's written in the same vein of a Hillary, mixture of like a Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris, that type deal. Even though they weren't really prominent in politics at the time, that's the vein that I would want her in, all right? And it also is paying homage to the one episode where Lisa was actually the president in like a dream episode or something. So she's our president of the United States. She's our progressive Democratic president that's trying to move things forward, all right? And obviously she faces a lot of backlash especially from the Republican Party. So she's faced a lot of backlash from people like Superman, who will go at a town hall meeting just to protest her and confront her because he's obviously that right-wing Republican nut, all right? And so Lisa doesn't make a whole lot of appearances in a lot of episodes because she's the president. So she doesn't appear in any episode at all, but she's just mentioned as a president. As a matter of fact, I don't even make her appear until one of the very last episodes that I wrote, where she's in an election against Yakko, who eventually beats her and becomes the Republican president, all right? After he rigged the election, by the way. And that's pretty much it. There wasn't too much I can say about Lisa right away because we didn't write nothing for her. But boy, did I have an idea for her moving forward, which I'll talk about later, within this video, all right? But that's Lisa Simpson, all right? So with that being said, let's keep it moving.
Squidward Tentacles.
All right, Squidward Tentacles. So these are going to be quick because I don't have much to say about a lot of these, but Squidward Tentacles, obviously we had to include him into the franchise because we got SpongeBob there. And SpongeBob is the reason why Squidward is on the franchise. And he's associated with SpongeBob on our franchise because Squidward's role within our franchise is he is SpongeBob SquarePants, head of security for his late night show. So he's the one that oversees the security for SpongeBob, all right? And that was pretty much it. Basically, he was meant to be like the Steve Wilkos, who used to be Jerry Springer's head of security on the Jerry Springer show. And so, whenever Steve would come out and stop somebody, the audience would scream, Steve, 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 Steve. Well, I had that same thing for Squidward. So when Squidward would come out and stop somebody, the audience would be like, Squidward, 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 But moving on to this late night show, I would just have Squidward as the head of security still, but just the head of security. And that's it. Not too much to write for him. He is on some pictures in the original series, so he's there, but not too much for him, all right? And that's Squidward, all right? So let's keep it moving to the next character.
Patrick Star.
All right, Patrick Star. Again, this is going to be another quick one, because just like Squidward, Patrick's role within the franchise has everything to do with SpongeBob, because Patrick is associated with SpongeBob on our franchise as well, okay? Because on our franchise, Patrick is just one of the security for SpongeBob's late night TV show. Where Squidward is the head, Patrick is one of the guys that works for Squidward as security. And I came up with that idea because obviously we wanted to include Patrick because of them. And another reason is because watching the Jerry Springer show, he had another security guard with Steve named Dave. And sometimes when he used to come out, the crowd used to chant, Dave, Dave, Dave. So just like with Squidward, whenever Patrick would come out and stop somebody, sometimes I would have him scream, Patrick, Patrick, Patrick. And that's pretty much it. And then when we transitioned SpongeBob to the late night show, Patrick just became one of his security guards. And that's it. And we didn't do much with the SpongeBob characters in general because they're already hella popular as is. Alright? But that's pretty much Patrick in a nutshell, alright? I didn't write much dialogue or nothing for him. So with that being said, let's keep it moving on to the next character, alright?
Milhouse Van Houten.
Alright, Milhouse Van Houten from The Simpsons. Now, Milhouse has a pretty interesting role within the franchise because he is drawn onto some pictures. So he's there and he exists. But at first, I didn't know what to do with him. I didn't have no idea for him. So we didn't draw him right away. But what happened was, with this Ash character, being the Mr. Garrison, there was a need for a character to kind of play the Mr. Mackey role from South Park. And if you don't know Mr. Mackey, that is a guidance counselor from South Park, the one that says, okay, all the time drugs are bad, okay. So basically, since we were doing nothing with Milhouse, I took Milhouse and had him become the school guidance counselor at the school that Ash works at, mainly to be in that Mr. Mackey role. But then I did so much more with that character than that, because he's working at the school. So not only does Ash work there, but Superman is also there. Wonder Woman's there. So I had, you could have Milhouse. I had Milhouse have interactions with Ash and with Superman where they're complaining to him about stuff that's going on in the school. And basically his sole role is just this disgruntled school guidance counselor who wants to pull his hair out half the time because people are always complaining at him, or he's always dealing with these students, all right? And that's pretty much it for Milhouse. There's not a whole lot written for him, but he's there, and he's the school guidance counselor, all right? So with that being said, that's Milhouse. Let's keep it moving on to the next character.
Kermit the Frog.
All right, Kermit the Frog. Now, Kermit has never been drawn in any of the original pictures, but he exists in the franchise because he's talked about a lot. Originally, I wrote Kermit as just the local neighborhood snitch from Sesame Street. He gets mentioned in the first episode that Elmo and Big Bird appear in, where they're talking about the ins and outs of Sesame Street, and he's one of those characters that they talked about as being a snitch. So I took that and ran with it, this day and age, and said, you know what? The ideal role for Kermit the Frog to me would be a snitching, prosecuting attorney. So that's what he'd be. He'd be the prosecuting attorney that will snitch on you, that would do everything in his power to get you locked the fuck up. Alright? He's that prosecuting attorney that you cannot stand. Alright? That is Kermit the Frog. That would be his role within our franchise. You know, if this were to be a real thing. Because again, he's not originally a part of it. But I added him because he gets talked about and because I could just see him in that Kermit the Frog, prosecuting attorney role. Alright? And that's pretty much it. Not much to say about Kermit other than he is just the snitching, prosecuting attorney. Alright? So with that being said, let's keep it moving on to the next character. Alright?
Louise.
Alright, Louise. Now, this character is interesting. Louise is an original created character of mine and Josh's. He don't exist nowhere but on our franchise. And he didn't even have a name at first. So Louise appears on episode 13 originally. And Louise is, his role, he is that initial prisoner that took advantage of Doug when they first got locked up. And S.A. Doug and turned Doug gay. That is Louise. And we didn't have a name for him at first. He was just a big, fat, hairy, smelly, bald-headed prisoner. Josh came up with the name Louise, so we just gave him that. And he wasn't meant to be an actual cast member. It's just that we continuously would use him because he was used a few episodes after that to attack Doug again to help out Team Bart. And that's the thing is, he's not affiliated with any team. You know, but however, he sometimes will be like basically after Doug turned gay. Because basically this guy's personality with his role within the franchise is he's basically our version of Fleece Johnson, the booty warrior. If you've ever seen the Boondocks or Lockup. He's just a prisoner that although he doesn't identify as gay, likes man butt and likes taking advantage of guys that he thinks is vulnerable. And that's his only purpose and role on his franchise, is he just likes taking advantage of vulnerable guys. All right. So yeah, even after Doug turned gay, he kind of became Doug's unofficial little boyfriend for a minute. All right, but he never identifies as gay, so he's not a part of the gay gang. He just likes taking advantage again of vulnerable men. There was even an episode, like I said, where John paid him to try to get at Elliot, and obviously it didn't work. All right, and even on the movie, you know, he's recruited by the gay gang to aid Team Mario, and he tried to get Goku in the movie, and Goku handled him, as Rikishi tried to get Krillin, and the same thing happened. Alright, and that's pretty much it. He's a disturbing character, but he is our originally created character, Louise, and he's just the horny prisoner that takes advantage of people, alright? And that's it. So with that being said, let's move on to the next character, alright?
Grover.
Alright, Grover. Now, this is a little interesting because Grover does exist within the show. And he appears originally on episode 9 with Elmo and Big Bird. The only thing is, originally, he is dead after that. We pretty much killed Grover off on his very first appearance, being killed by Elmo. So originally, that's how it is. However, I came up with this idea to, if we were to have kept this thing going, Elmo would have been the addict on the show versus Timmy Turner. But because we already have an addict, I decided that if we were to keep Grover, that I would give him the personality of the recovering addict. Meaning he's an addict, but he is in recovery and trying his best to do better. While all the while still having little relapses and whatever. He's going to all these, you know, rehab meetings or whatever, but still having his little relapses. And that's pretty much it. Because on the franchise, he's dead. So I can't say I did much for him, but I kind of would have had him in this role. Because I felt like it fit somebody like Grover, all right? And that's pretty much it for Grover, all right? That's literally it. So with that being said, let's keep it moving, all right?
Mr. Krabs.
All right, Mr. Krabs. So Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. Now, he does appear in the franchise originally, but he's only on like one picture. And I didn't write an episode for it or nothing. It's just him seeing a little dog and then a little dog chewing up his money. I didn't really know what to do with Mr. Krabs. But then I came up with this idea because he loves money so much, right? So one thing we didn't have was basically an exotic gentleman's club yet. So I was like, oh my God, there it is. Mr. Krabs' personality that I personally created recently is he will be the owner of the local most popular adult entertainment, basically strip club within the area. Because I can see Mr. Krabs as a strip club owner because he loves money so much. I can see him flirting with his dancers and all that jazz. And what you're going to see following this probably is a continuation of these things with different pieces of his club, all right? But for Mr. Krabs in particular, he will be the shady, perverted little strip club owner that cares about nothing but making money and likes being flirty with all of his girls. I could see a Mr. Krabs themed strip club in the heart of Times Square or something like that. Since this is supposed to take place in New York City, I could see Mr. Krabs themed adult entertainment strip club right out there with him being the head of the thing, all right? And that's pretty much it. Like I said, there's no dialogue for Mr. Krabs, but yeah, he's the owner of the local strip club, all right? And with that being said, that's Mr. Krabs, all right? So let's move on to the next character.
Pillsbury Doughboy.
All right, so this is why I said it gets a little interesting, all right? So Pillsbury Doughboy, all right? So now, he is not an original member at all of the franchise. This is an example of a character that I have just recently added. And I recently added it because with Lisa Simpson being the president, I wanted to have her to have like her own little cabinet. So I just thought of the first character that came to mind was Pillsbury Doughboy. And so I decided that he would be her vice president, basically. He'd be the guy on the ticket with her, the Simpson Doughboy presidential ticket. You know, I have him with more of a Tim Walsh, like, you know, mindset attitude, because that's how I would want him to be. He'd be the guy everybody loves, backing up Lisa Simpson. He's also a Democrat himself. All right, that's pretty much it. He'd be the one, you know, standing behind her at the podium when she's giving some kind of speech or something like the vice president does. And that's it. And it's short and sweet because I don't have nothing for him. He's not part of the franchise originally, but if this were to take place now, he'd be the vice president, all right? So that's it, all right? So let's move on to the next character, all right?
The Count.
All right, the Count. Again, another character like Pillsbury Doughboy. He doesn't exist. Recently added by me as Lisa Simpson's Secretary of the State. And that's just me trying to add on to her little cabinet, all right? Originally, I was going to make the Count the vice president, but I thought it fit him better to be something different. So he just be Lisa's, you know, Secretary of the State. You know, he be the one in charge of whatever it is that they're in charge of. And that's pretty much it for the Count. Like I said, these will be short and sweet because I literally just added that character, all right? So there's not much else to say. He's just the Secretary of the State and President Lisa Simpson's presidential cabinet, all right? So with that being said, that is the Count, short and sweet. Let's move on to the next character, all right?
Anna.
All right, Anna from Frozen. Now, actually, Anna does not exist, again, within our franchise. I added her, but originally I added Anna. I was going to have her as just an alternate girlfriend to Shaggy from the Deuce. Alright, because like I said in the Deuce video, Daphne kind of starts dating Johnny Bravo at a point. But if I was not going to do that, I really would still wanted to add Anna into the franchise. So I came up with this idea to have Anna as Lisa Simpson's Speaker of the House of Representatives. Because I wanted to see this visual of Lisa giving the State of the Union address with Pillsbury Doughboy behind her and then Anna on the other side, all right? And a Democrat, like I said. And that's pretty much it. Anna's not an original member, so I can't talk too much about her. But she would be President Lisa Simpson's Speaker of the House of Representatives, all right? And that'll be Lisa's little cabinet in a nutshell. So with that being said, let's keep...
Larry the Lobster.
All right, Larry the Lobster. Okay, again, this is another example of a character that I just recently added. And because I made this Mr. Krabs strip club, I felt like he needed some staff. So that's where Larry comes in. Because obviously I've dated dancers. My current girl used to be a dancer, so I know a lot about them and what they do. And so they always have bouncers. And so I figured Larry would be a perfect bouncer to work at a Mr. Krabs' own strip club. And that's pretty much all he would be, is one of the bouncers. Mr. Krabs has got 4 of them. Larry would be one of them, all right? And he'd be, hey, Larry. The girls would come in, hey, Larry, hey, girls, That's pretty much it. Like I said, not much for him because this is something that I just added, all right? But Larry would be one of the bouncers, bodyguards for Mr. Krabs Strip Club, all right? So that's Larry. Now let's keep it
Bowser.
All right, Bowser. Now Bowser is a little different because Bowser, like Grover, is one of those characters that already existed in the franchise that we killed early on. I killed him in his first episode, so we didn't do nothing with Bowser. So if we were to somehow bring him back or keep him, this is the role I would have him in, as another one of Mr. Krabs' bouncer security guard at his club. Because Bowser looks like he could fit in that role. He would probably be working the same shift with Larry a lot of the times and just in there protecting the girls and doing whatever he needs to do, all right? And that's pretty much Bowser King Koopa, all right? Again, originally he's dead. But if he would have come back, I would have had him in a role similar to that, all right? So again, short and sweet. Let's keep moving.
Shrek.
All right, Shrek. Once again, like Bowser, like Grover, Shrek is one of those characters that already existed that we killed. I have Shrek originally being killed in a drive-by or being shot by, I believe, Mario's son, Mario and Jigglypuff's son. So, he's obviously dead in the original thing, but again, bringing him back, I already kind of had him as like a part-time mechanic with Wolverine. So on top of that, he'd be another one of the bouncers at Mr. Krabs' strip club. And he'd be the nice one that, hey, Shrek, hello, girls. He'd be the guy, okay, buddy, come on, you've had too much to drink. He'd be that bouncer, all right? He'd try to be the calm one, basically. And that would be Shrek, all right? Not too much else to say. He's just a bouncer at Mr. Krabs' strip club, all right? So with that being said, let's keep...
Luke Cage.
All right, Luke Cage. Another late added addition that I just added. So no, he's not a part of the franchise. But if he was, damn it, yes, he'd be one of the bouncers to Mr. Krabs' strip club. Because I wanted to have a big intimidating ass black dude also as one of their bouncers. So with all the 4 of them, Luke Cage, in my opinion, would be the most intimidating, all right? But he'd just be another one of Mr. Krabs' security, and he probably work a lot of his shifts with Shrek, just like Bowser and Larry. And he'd be there to intimidate guys and basically protect the girls, and that would be his only role, because obviously wouldn't know what else to do with him right now because he's a new character. But with that being said, that's Luke Cage, all right? Just another bodyguard. So let's keep it moving.
Felix the Cat.
Felix the Cat, all right? See, what I'm doing right now is kind of trying to get through very quickly all of the staff that I would have had for Mr. Krabs at his strip club. So Felix would be another one of those staff members, and he's just a character I thought of because I thought, okay, this is a strip club. There's got to be somebody playing the music. So who's going to be our DJ? Well, Felix the Cat would be your DJ at this Mr. Krabs theme strip club. He'd be the one, all right, fellas, get your dollars out for the next lady. You know, he'd be that type of guy, all right? And that's pretty much it. And I just thought of him out the blue. That's why Felix is at it, all right? And he's pretty much just Mr. Krabs' DJ at his strip club, all right? So with that being said, let's keep it moving.
Timon and Pumba.
Timon and Pumba. Now, I should have added them in the dynamic duos thing. I just forgot about them, all right? But that's why I'm adding them together here on this. They do appear originally in the franchise, you know, together as being afraid of Bart Simpson's pet lion, Simba, all right? But moving them, that's like the only episode I had them as a part of. But moving on further from that, with this Mr. Krabs strip club, obviously he would need valet drivers. So that's where they would come in. I would have Timon and Pumba as Mr. Krabs' valet drivers at his club. You know, you need your car parked or whatever, hand it to Timon, hand it to Pumba. They'll make sure you get your car parked, all right? And wisecrack you on top of that. And that's pretty much it. Not too much to say, because even though they already exist in the universe, I didn't write much for them, but that would have been their purpose, being Mr. Krabs' valet drivers, all right? So now, let's keep it.
Mario Sr.
All right, Mario Sr. All right, now this is an example again of one of our originally created characters. And obviously, he is the father of Mario and Luigi. Now, the thing about him is, you know, with Mario's people, we wanted to extend that family. So we wanted to introduce his dad, but we wanted to do something unique with him. So the unique thing about him is he carries around this, you know, he fell in love with the 1960s decade. So he adopted that look and never let it go. So he walks around with a doo-wop band, you know, 1960s look, complete with the pompadour and everything. He looks like a Grease character, all right? He looks like he should be a part of the Temptations, all right? He fell in love with that era, and that's basically his role, is he's their dad that's stuck in the 1960s. And you'll see a reoccurring thing with this, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But Mario Sr. is basically just the father of Mario and Luigi that likes to dress like he's still in the 60s, all right? And that's it. He appears in various episodes pertaining to Mario, and that's pretty much it, all right? So with that being said, let's keep it moving.
Jario Mario.
All right, Jario Mario. All right, another one of the Mario relatives. Jario Mario now is the brother of Mario Sr., the uncle of Mario and Luigi, and the father of Wario, which explains why his mustache looks like Wario's. And yes, he's another originally created character. And just like Mario Sr., who's stuck in the 60s, well, Jario Mario is stuck in the 70s. So he likes to dress like the 70s, complete with the disco look, the big afro, the platform shoes. You can't tell him nothing. And that's pretty much, that's his thing. So his brother's stuck in the 60s, and he is stuck in the 70s. And he's also the father to Wario, making Wario Mario and Luigi's cousin, technically, all right? And that's pretty much it with Jario. He's just Mario's brother that's stuck in the 70s, all right? So with that being said, let's keep it.
Nuigi Mario.
All right, Nuigi Mario. You see the theme here? So Nuigi Mario is the younger brother of Mario Sr. and Jario Mario. And just like his two brothers, one that's stuck in the 60s and one that's stuck in the 70s, well, Nuigi Mario is the brother that is stuck in the 1980s, all right? Complete with the Jerry curl and the glittery clothes and everything in between. He's also the uncle that Luigi takes after, hence why they look so much the same, all right? And again, he's just meant to be another one of them brothers that, you know, he walks around with the glittery glove like Michael Jackson sometimes, again with the Jerry curl. And it's because he fell in love with the 80s and, you know, never got out of it, all right? And that's pretty much Luigi. He's the uncle of Mario and Luigi and Wario that's stuck in the 1980s, all right? So with that being said, let's keep...
Sario Mario.
All right, Sario Mario, the last of the Mario uncles. He is the youngest of Mario Sr.'s brothers. And like his brothers, how Mario Sr. is stuck in the 60s and Jario Mario is stuck in the 70s and Luigi Mario is stuck in the 80s. Well, Sario Mario is stuck, I would say, in the late 80s, early 90s time period, because the concept with him was for him to be the brother with the high top fade and in love with their old school hip hop mentality. So he wears like the parachute pants and carries his boom box and everything. He wears the big dookie gold chains and all that. And obviously his most prominent feature is his high top fade, you know, representing the inspiration that he took from people like Bobby Brown and Big Daddy Kane and Kid and Play and people like that, all right? And that's just him. He's just a younger brother of Mario Sr. that's stuck in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, hip-hop fashion, all right? And that's pretty much it for the Mario extended family, all right? So with that being said, let's keep it moving.
Eliza Thornberry.
All right, Eliza Thornberry. All right, now this is the part of the video where the characters that I'm going to talk about, you probably won't see no AI concepts for, but you might. All right. Eliza Thornberry is a character that we just kind of added to be in the same vein as a Velma. Okay, so she's there, and basically her only role is basically she's Velma's friend that also stinks and doesn't understand why people thinks that she stinks, but she does. The only difference is she actually has a boyfriend, because I made Franklin the Turtle from the GTA crew her man, because he can't smell her. He's a turtle. He can't smell her, so he don't see what's wrong with her. But that's basically her sole role. You know, she appears in various episodes doing random things, but most of the time she's always with Velma, and her role on the show is she's another one of those girls that stinks and doesn't know why. And that's it. That's literally it for Eliza Thornberry, all right? So with that being said, let's move on to the next character.
Makko Warner.
All right, Makko Warner. Now again, if you're wondering who the fuck this is, Makko Warner is an originally created character of mine and Josh's, exclusively connected to Yakko Warner, who we have, obviously, if you watch my police video, as the head police officer. And Makko Warner came about because basically of that episode that I wrote where I copied the Jacksons in American Dream, where Yakko had his nephews as basically the Jacksons, and he was basically Joe Jackson. So with that being said, Makko is pretty much the Michael of that deal. And obviously Michael Jackson was alive and well at this time. So it was a little bit different than it would be today. But Makko Warner is basically the Michael of that deal. And why I didn't use the other brothers very much. If Makko is our version of the Michael Jackson, then obviously there's a lot that you can do with him. So we pretty much had him, Makko Warner, as our version of Michael Jackson, which meant that a lot of things that Michael Jackson was made fun of about or whatever, we took and used that. And I'm saying this because Michael Jackson is my favorite singer of all time. And I have nothing but respect for him. But at that time, as teenagers, yeah, we went there. And so we basically had this character evolve the exact same way that Michael Jackson did. You know, we have young Makko, who's representing, you know, little Michael. You have our version of Thriller Michael, you know, Thriller Makko. We have what you call Bad Michael, or late 80s Michael, where he's a little bit light-skinned. We have that version of Makko. We have His Story Michael, and then we have that version of Makko. We have Short Hair, You Are Not Alone Michael. We got that version of Makko. And then, of course, we have, you know, basically what I call Millennium Michael, where all of the surgery to his face is done. And we have that version of Makko. So basically, any transformation that Michael made to his face or whatever, we put that on to our character. And also all the accusations that Michael was being accused of, which I never believed to this day and still don't believe. We kind of made them true with this character. So there was a documentary that came out around that time called Living with Michael Jackson or something, where there's this British guy in there interviewing Michael Jackson, and in my opinion, taking advantage of Michael Jackson's kindness. So we took that documentary and had the same guy, basically the same guy interviewing our Makko, basically. And so you see Makko holding the baby over the ledge like Michael Jackson did. You know, all the way up until Makko even tried to take advantage of Yakko's son, his cousin, which Yakko caught him. And yeah, that was it. He was meant to be Michael Jackson. You know, obviously by the time Michael died, we were long over that. And so obviously that character would have to be presented very differently, you know, than back then. But that's Makko Warner, and he had a lot of story arcs, so that's why I had to include him, all right? So with that being said, that's Makko. Let's
Eustace Bagge.
All right, now Eustace Bagge. Eustace from Courage the Cowardly Dog is probably one of the most unique cast members on the show because he's always around in various episodes and he appears, but his role in our franchise is the guy that just he's a con man that just carries on random odd jobs, which means you'll always see Eustace in different episodes doing various jobs. One minute he can be a bartender. One minute he'll be like a preacher marrying somebody. The next minute, you know, he's doing something. Eustace just carries on. He's the guy that just carries on a ton of different jobs. He never has one solid job. He's just always that guy that's carrying on the odd jobs, the random odd jobs, you know. And that's pretty much it for him. Josh just came up with that idea for him because he wanted a guy like that that's just all over the place doing these random different jobs, or he's, you know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much him. So that's Eustace within the nutshell, all right? So with that being said, let's keep it moving. All right?
Powerpuff Girls.
All right, the Powerpuff Girls. Now, these are going to be the last characters that let me not say that. Anyways, the Powerpuff Girls, you know, they're very prominent within the franchise. They're always together, obviously, as a tandem, and they appear, you know, in the same episode with a lot of the other Cartoon Network characters. And in the beginning, they play like a significant role, particularly Bubbles and Buttercup, all right? Starts off with Bubbles being in a relationship with Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory, all right? Till eventually he ends up cheating on her with Buttercup, and so they become a couple, you know what I mean? To the point where after that, it kind of stays like that, actually. And then afterwards, they're just kind of wreaking havoc a lot of the times. Whether they're wreaking havoc in the city, wreaking havoc against one of their own, that funny-looking Powerpuff Girl that they created at one point in time. But other than that, they just appear randomly, or whether they're appearing as girls of the night on the street, okay? That's pretty much their role. They're very prominent, so that's why I'm talking about them, all right? But with that being said, that's pretty much the Powerpuff Girls, all right? So let's keep it moving.
Dexter's dad.
All right, the dad from Dexter's Laboratory. Dexter's dad, or just dad. This will be the last character that I talk about in great detail, because the rest of them, there's so little for them, there's not much you can say. Dexter's dad, though, plays a significant role on our franchise because he is our resident pimp, all right? We had everything on the show but a pimp. So Josh decided one day to draw Dexter's dad as a pimp at a gas station at a pimp, confronting little Susie from Johnny Bravo, all right? And so from that point forward, on our show, Dexter's dad became our local pimp. So whenever he got to get some hoes to check or something, that's what his role is, all right? And that's pretty much it. He's the pimp of the show. He's one of my favorite characters because of that reason, but yeah, he's just the pimp of the show, all right? And that's Dexter's dad, all right? So with that being said, let's keep it moving.
Everyone else.
All right, so for this next batch of characters, I'm bunching them all together because this video is going on way too long. And there's not much to say about them all. It's just the ones that I'm thinking of in my head. I'm going to try to think of them all and get it all on here. So I might forget people, all right? But I'm going to do this piece by piece and explain as much as I can. So there's Professor Utonium from the Powerpuff Girls, who his role in our franchise is the assistant pimp to Dexter's dad. He appeared originally as himself, but after that, we kind of put him in that assistant pimp role from watching the movie How High, and just kind of left him there. So that was his role. Then there's Muriel from the from Courage the Cowardly Dog, whose role is she's either the nanny for the kids of the main characters, or she's just always that damsel in distress getting attacked by somebody, all right? That's pretty much Muriel in a nutshell. There's little Susie from the Johnny Bravo show, who only made that one appearance with Dexter's dad, and not much else was done for her, so I couldn't even tell you what I was going to do with her. Same can be said about Pops and Bunny Bravo from the Johnny Bravo show, because they also have like a one-off appearance, and that's pretty much it. There's not much else that was done with them, So I don't know how far we would have went with them. Also, there's Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls, who actually plays a pretty significant role as one of Donkey Kong's allies. He's not on the team, but he's one of the allies. I also wrote him prominently in that Donkey Kong Behind the Character documentary, where he's a part of that rap group, MWA, with Donkey Kong. And then there was a picture drawn where he was about to get it on with Sally from the newspaper strips. But other than that, that's pretty much it for Mojo Jojo. And also, along with Mojo Jojo, is the Rowdy Rough Boys, the boy Powerpuff Girls, who are basically his son. And they're basically always with him. And that's pretty much all I really did with them. So there wasn't much to say about them either, but they are there. Also, there's Monkey from Dexter, again, is just an ally to Donkey Kong and a former group member of that rap group that Donkey Kong was in, alright? And that's pretty much Monkey. You see how quickly I'm getting through all of these? There's also Fuzzy Lumpkins from the Powerpuff Girls, who basically is just an old hick on the show, who has no real purpose. He just there and sits on his porch and complains about everything, alright? So that's him. There's also Carl from the Johnny Bravo show, who I actually had as the school principal, you know, to the school that Superman and all them work at. And just because I needed a head of the school, and he just happened to be a character we weren't using, so I put him in that role. So, you know, that was him. And then there's Dot from the Animaniacs, the sister of Yakko and Makko Warner. Now, even though I use Yakko and Makko more prominently, Dot is around and makes sporadic appearances. And basically, her role is she's a girl of the night. She's an exotic dancer. You know, she's one of those. Alright? And that's pretty much her sole role. Dot is one of the dancers actually at Mr. Krabs' strip club, along with Hello Nurse from the Animaniacs. And Hello Nurse is obviously that sexy blonde-haired nurse that appears on that show. And just like Dot, she's an exotic dancer, a lady of the night. You know, she dated Johnny Bravo temporarily. Alright. And yeah, that's her role. And there's a couple of other ones I'm trying to think of. I just lost it. Oh, I just lost it. I hate when that happens too. Damn, I hate when that happens. But there's so many characters. Oh yeah. So there's Jimmy from Ed, Edd n Eddy, who basically plays a similar role to Johnny, which is why we didn't use Jimmy very often. But he's a little whiny punk bitch like Johnny. Alright. And then there's also Rolf. There's also Rolf from the Ed, Edd n Eddy show, who we have as basically the weird foreigner or the weird guy that owns a convenience store. Alright? So that's Rolf. And he also plays the husband to Cow from Cow and Chicken, who is also a part of this, who basically came along with Chicken. And yeah, since Rolf is weird, we just had him be married to Cow. And that's it. You know, she tried to be a girl of the night at one point, tried to get Ed, Edd n Eddy, and had him throwing up and everything, all right? And two other prominent members is Cat and Dog from the Cat Dog show, all right? Originally, they appeared together as a whole cat dog. Basically, we had Eliza Thornberry as a surgeon that split them apart. So then you see Cat and Dog as separate, and they ended up becoming members of that new group, the Black Hoods, that took over the city for a period of time. Ran by Spy Guy, all right? And if I miss somebody else, I just missed them. But that's the most of the rest of the characters that I can think of. And I'm getting tired. And I know y'all are getting tired of hearing me ramble. So that is basically Twisted Toons in a nutshell. And that's the end of this little thing that I'm going to do with these. And I hope you guys enjoyed these. I know I ramble on and on, but it was important for me to get this out there. So now, if you enjoyed these, please continue to support the channel. Subscribe, hit that like button, share with a friend. And as always, don't ever hesitate to dive into it with D, all right? I'm out.